Isn't this kind of situation when they tell you, stay put, it will be okay, and they run away for their lives? A teenage girl is talking with a group of friends in footage that seems to be cell phone video. Tragedy at sea on the morning of 16 April 2014, the Seoul, a South Korea ferry take off from Incheon traveling to Jeju Island. On board, there were over 476 people. 325 of them were students from Daewon High School. As the ship would begin to sink, the captain would fail to give an order to move. The captain and several crew members would instead get off the ship, saving themselves as hundreds of people were left to die. Many factors would contribute to loss of life during rescue operation. Nearby ships in the area close enough to assist in rescue operation had non-operational raft and were virtually unable to help. Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Amni Amnani binti Roslan. So now, I will tell you guys a short and precise about the chronology of this incident. As Seoul ferry began sinking, the ferry's intercom system started ordering the passengers to stay put, alleging and moving that was dangerous. The announcement were made by a communication officer, Kang Hae-sung, who had not consulted the manual before the broadcast. The announcement began broadcasting at least at 8:52 a.m. and continued even when water began flooding passengers' compartments. Other crew members corroborated this order, instructing passengers to stay put. Captain Lee also instructed passengers to stay put and did not to change the order even as he himself was leaving the ship. The first emergency call was made by Choi Duk-ha, a Daewon High School student aboard the ferry. At 8:52 a.m., he called the National Emergency Service number and reported to the fire department that Seoul had begun to sink. He was connected to the Mokpo Coast Guard at 8:54 a.m. and was asked to give the latitude and longitude of the ship's location. 3 minutes later, the Mokpo Coast Guard Station Situation Room ordered patrol vessel number 123 to be dispatched to the scene and was launched at 8:58 a.m. Following the Coast Guard search and rescue manual, the boat was to oversee surveying the area and swiftly rescuing passengers. Unfortunately, Choi Duk-ha did not survive the capsizing and was later found dead. Seoul's crew made their first distress call to the Jeju Vessel Traffic Service Center and asked them to notify the Korea Coast Guard as the ferry was rolling and in danger. Then, Jeju Vessel Traffic Service Center called the Jeju Coast Guard. 3 minutes later, the Jeju Coast Guard called Mokpo Coast Guard and discovered that a patrol boat has already been dispatched. Then, Captain Lee called the nearest Cheonghaejin Office branch, which is in Incheon, and reported the situation. At 9:06 a.m., the Jindo Vessel Traffic Service Center were informed of the capsizing incident by the Mokpo Coast Guard. Around this time, Seoul's crew began communicating with the Jindo Vessel Traffic Service Center, which was closer to their location. Then the center alerted 2 other ships that Seoul was sinking, with one confirming that it had visual contact with the ship. Around this time, the captain of patrol vessel number 123 was appointed the commander of the scene. 4 minutes afterwards, the crew of Seoul reported to the Vessel Traffic Service Center that the ferry had heeled more than 50 degrees to port. At 9:23 a.m., the Jindo Vessel Traffic Service ordered the crew to inform the passengers to wear life jackets. When the crew replied that the broadcasting equipment was out of order, The vessel traffic service told them to personally order the passenger to wear life jackets and more clothing. At 9:25 a.m., the Jindo Vessel Traffic Service asked Captain Lee to decide quickly whether to evacuate the ship, stating that they did not have enough information to make the decision. When Captain Lee inquired about the rescue, the Vessel Traffic Service replied that patrol boats were due to arrive in 10 minutes and a helicopter in 1 minute. Captain Lee replied that there were too many passengers for the helicopter. During this time, Captain told passengers to stay in the cabins. The communications officer using the ship's intercom repeatedly ordered passengers not to move. At 9:33 a.m., after confirming that nearby ships had volunteered to help in the rescue operations, the Vessel Traffic Service told all ships to drop lifeboats for the passengers. At 9:38 a.m., all communications were cut off between Vessel Traffic Services and Seoul Ferry. About 3 minutes after all communications were cut, about 150 to 160 passengers and crew jumped overboard. Around that time, a few fishing boats and patrol boat 1 to 3 helped to save the passengers. Patrol boat 1 to 3 was the only Coast Guard boat that was at the scene. The one who was supposed to protect them was absent there. Then, the government assumed there was no one in the ferry after some people jumped overboard. So, on the following day, a group of civilian divers arrived on the scene to assist in the Coast Guard's rescue of any of the 291 people still trapped in the ship. The ship sank down completely before the end of the next morning. Over the next 3 months, civilian divers worked to retrieve the bodies of the victims as well as their belongings. With no government divers skillful enough to retrieve the bodies in the 40-meter deep sea with bad visibility, the civilian divers dedicated themselves to the recovery mission. On 10 July 2014, the government suddenly ordered the civilian divers to cease the search operation and leave the area. Over the next year, victims' family and civilian divers worked together to call for the government to investigate the mishandling of the rescue. The final death toll reveals that 304 of the passengers were died and 5 of the bodies were never recovered. Out of the 299 deaths, 250 were students of Daewon High School. So that's all from me. Thank you.